Every year there's a common debate that always keeps coming back, and that's whether you should buy a MacBook or an iPad. Now most of you watching this video are either going back to school or already started school, and you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm gonna need some sort of main machine. With this video, I'm hoping to give you guys a better perspective on both of the devices and hopefully ultimately help you answer one question: which one is best for you? Now as for myself, I've owned the iPad for a few years now. I think it's been over 2 years that I've had the iPad. I'm currently rocking the iPad Air, and it's been a constant journey. It's been a kind of an up and down experience. There are many times where I found myself loving the iPad and other times just not so much in harmony with the iPad itself. Over the course of these last 2 years, there have been semesters or sessions that were a lot more heavy, a lot more busy, and other ones that have been a little bit more quiet. Ultimately, the iPad has been completing the same amount of tasks and it's been used in kind of the same ways. I've run into some things that, I love about the iPad, but there's also things that I'm just not so fond of the iPad. So let's start with the positive things on the iPad. Now, first things first with the iPad is that it's light, it's portable, it's convenient. Now for me as a student, using the iPad was a bit of a challenging journey sometimes. However, the portability of it made things a lot better. There's been multiple days where I had extensive long days at school, I had multiple classes, and just carrying a device that's significantly lighter than a lot of other devices on the market makes this whole experience just that much better, right? So there would be a lot of days, I'd start the day, go to school, travel, and then move between classes. I'd have to go from like the 5th floor to the 2nd floor, moving here and there. There were days where I had extensive breaks. I would go out and eat, maybe catch up with some friends. And throughout that whole process, you have your backpack, and what's inside the backpack? It's either the MacBook or the iPad, or in some cases you have both. But in the situations where I only had the iPad, I found myself very, very happy with the fact that it was lighter. I had less weight on my back, and that's something that I really love, having less weight. If I'm moving around all the time as a student or whatever the case may be, but mainly as a student, you want to have a device that's just convenient. It's portable, it's lightweight, and that's something that the iPad, it's very hard to match. A lot of laptops can do that. The iPad, however, has that advantage. Now, obviously, considering the form factor of the iPad, it's just a tablet, right? There isn't much to it. There are a lot of accessories that you can add. For myself, I don't have a smart photo keyboard as I don't find the need to it, and it is also something that I kind of want to touch up on, the accessories on the iPad, which can kind of hinder your decision and also just make you think about the whole process a few times. But in my situation, I only have an Apple Pencil. It's just about what you need. Now with the Apple Pencil, you'll be able to pretty much do all of the stuff you need. You want to take notes. Obviously, the Apple Pencil allows you to do that. That's kind of also the whole point of having a tablet for school. But if you want to invest in some more accessories, for example, a smart photo keyboard, if you want to get the original one from Apple, it can run you a pretty penny, man. It goes for about $400. It's not something that I would personally recommend. However, if this is something that you want to do, get all that ecosystem with the iPad, when you want the keyboard and the mouse and the Apple Pencil and all that stuff. If you add all those things together, it can factor into a big price point. But for the most part, how I've been using it, right? Just a simple iPad, Apple Pencil, and a simple case that allows me to kind of just move the iPad in different positions. It's been the winning combo for me. It's just what got the job done. A lot of the times when I was in class, if I was taking notes, I would just do them kind of the old-fashioned way, pen and paper. But on the iPad, there were instances where in some classes the material was a lot heavier, there was more information given by the teacher, and it was hard for me to kind of take notes and keep up. I have this tendency of really wanting to keep things clean and nice and pretty, and I realized that with the iPad it was time consuming. There wasn't really any moment for me to like sit down and like polish my notes and everything. So I would have these documents that were very simple and generic. And not just simple and generic, but a lot of times the ultimate result is that it would get messy, right? I'd have notes a little bit everywhere. That's just a personal critique that I have. Maybe some of you guys don't actually mind that, or it's not that important to you. However, this is something that I've pointed out in a realistic kind of situation, right? We see a lot of these commercials about the iPad. Oh, we're taking notes. It's so pretty. It looks great. But then you get to actually doing it in class and you look at your notes and you're like, what is this? It looks so messy. But then again, writing notes on the iPad and having a pencil and kind of like that pen and paper, but on a digital form, is also really good in other scenarios, right? So if you're in a class where most of the situation and most of the context is, words and information and theoretical, then it might not be such of a good option for you. However, if you're in a class, for example, you study architecture and you're doing a lot of drawings, you're working with a lot of sketches, 3D models, an iPad might be a fantastic option for you. It allows you to manipulate these programs. It depends, which market are you in? What is better for you? Arguably, some people would say, oh, well, you could use the iPad for everything and anything. Other people will say you really can't because it's just not that good. And this is something that I think you should take in consideration, not just take it from me. Look at where you are, look at what exactly the iPad can do for you. In my situation, I study economics. It was convenient sometimes, there was a lot of math, so a lot of times I would just take my notes down, write down the equations and all that. It was great. That mixed with the portability and the form factor of the iPad being so light, it was nice. Now, with all that being said, the iPad can be a little bit of a tricky choice, but what isn't a tricky choice is Dr.Fone, the all-in-one platform to recover any file from your old phone. So now you might be wondering, okay, so what exactly is Dr.Fone? It's a software that allows you to recover data and just a lot of stuff from your phone. So say recently you broke a phone, or you're just trying to change your phone, you want to switch to a new platform. This software is going to allow you to recover absolutely everything from your phone in just a simple few clicks. All you're going to need for this process is your old smartphone or the one that you just broke, and a cable to connect to the computer, and that's it. Now, once you have downloaded the Dr.Fone launcher and you've connected your smartphone to the computer, you have this main page here called Toolbox, and you'll find all the stuff you need. You have data recovery, system repair, phone transfer, data eraser, and there's a lot more stuff for you to access within here. You can check your photos, your music, podcasts, so you can recover pretty much anything you want from your smartphone. And the best part about this launcher is that it's super easy to use. For example, if you want to click on data recovery, it'll pop up a separate window and you can have access to all of the stuff in here. It's very simple, it's color coordinated, and it's very easy to read, so just about anyone can use it and figure it out on the go. So I went ahead and left a link in the description down below if you guys want to use Wondershare and all of their platforms, including Dr.Fone. Go ahead and take advantage of it right now. I want to give a big shout out to them for making this video possible. With all that said, let's get back to the video. Now, over the course of time, there's other things I've noticed with the iPad that I wasn't necessarily a big fan of. One thing being the battery life. I've noticed that over the course of time, if you have a setup like mine where you have the Apple Pencil and you're keeping everything together, the iPad is constantly charging the Apple Pencil, and this is something you can easily forget, and it will hinder your battery life over the course of a whole day. You start the day with the iPad at 100%. There are many times I was in class, I would go through my first class, 100%, go down to maybe like 95, 90%. Sometimes I'd end up the class, for example, with 87%, right? And then there would be an interim between the first class and the second class. I'd get to my second class maybe 2-3 hours later, and I'd take out the iPad and my battery went from 87 down to 63. And I would think to myself, well, how? I left no apps open, nothing was running in the background. And then that's where it clicked. I realized that it's always charging the Apple Pencil. The Apple Pencil, majority of the time, is at 100%. Thanks to the fact that the iPad itself is charging it. Now, for me, when it comes to these type of things, I really do like not having to charge my devices. I like when my battery life lasts me a long time, and this is something that I had in the beginning with the iPad, but down the line, I didn't have it anymore. And especially now, after 2 years with the iPad Air, I specifically held back on some software updates just to kind of preserve that battery life and, as much as I possibly could. But there are many situations I'll be at school, I'll use it, it'll be at 80%, 90%. At the end of the day, it dropped all the way down to like 20, 19%, and I barely use it. My screen on time will probably rotate close to like 3.5 hours. There are other things that we can consider when looking at an iPad. Sure, you can get the bigger sizes, it'll give you a bigger battery, but then again, you're paying more, right? And as a student, a lot of the times I think we forget in these videos, it's easy for me to sit here and be like, oh, well, you can get the iPad Air if you want more battery, just get the bigger one, it's an easy fix. But a lot of times students don't necessarily have all this money to splurge. If you don't want to go all the extra mile to do that and you want to stick to a regular iPad Air with just an Apple Pencil, that can be a good option. It's the one I have and it's the one I've been rocking with. The iPad Air, when I first bought it, was $700. Apple Pencil was $150. Cost me about, with taxes and everything, it was like around $900 something. And I've been using it for, I think, the better part of the last 2 years. Maybe not every day. I don't always go to school, but the times that I've been, it was useful, it was great. Now let's take a closer look at the MacBook. In my case, I have a MacBook Pro, but it's not necessarily about which MacBook you have. It's just the overall idea of the MacBook. You could have a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, not really important. As a student, most of the machines will get the job done. For this matter, we can even consider just any laptop for that sake. You can consider just a Windows laptop. So what is the experience with a MacBook? I personally think that the MacBook just has a little bit more range, a little bit more flexibility when it comes to that. Considering the fact that I have a MacBook Pro, it is heavier, right? It's not exactly as portable as the iPad. Whenever I have the MacBook in my backpack or the iPad, I notice a very significant difference in between both. But with that said, in comparison to the iPad, the MacBook in the exact same courses, so for example, if we look at economics, that's the program that I study in, it was a lot easier for me to follow through the class with a MacBook. So there was a lot of times where I would open the PowerPoints or open the course material on the laptop and I would have a pen and paper next to me and it was very easy, right? The pen and paper, I'm just taking notes, I'm going at my rhythm, I'm going as fast as I can, and I can keep up with stuff on the actual MacBook. A lot of times I would multitask. I'd have maybe the PowerPoint on one side and I'd have some extra notes on the other side. I would type in really quickly. Keyboard is efficient, it's super quick, it's fast. A keyboard is so much more efficient. And I know the iPad itself has like a digital keyboard on the screen, but nothing really beats a real keyboard. I think it's just something that it's either you love it or you hate it. But that being said, the performance of a MacBook is obviously by far a lot better than the iPad. And not only that, as a student, you're not gonna be spending all of your time just in class, studying, getting stuff done, and that's it. There's gonna be a lot of other things, right? So when it comes to leisure, consuming media, maybe you're gonna work on some other projects. For example, you study in arts and you have a knack for music. Maybe you wanna get into music production. Yeah, you can work on music production on the iPad. However, on the MacBook, you're just gonna get a lot more done. A MacBook allows me to have that versatility. In regards to performance, when it comes to the MacBook itself, sure, it has a bigger battery life, so it will last you a little bit more. My battery life on my MacBook Pro is a little bit used. I've had it for a few years now, so it's slowly degrading a little bit, but it's still a little bit better than my iPad Air. So all in all, the question still remains, which one is better, right? I can't make that decision for you, and no one can really. It just depends on what you need more specifically. Most of the times I gravitate towards the MacBook, especially in the last few months. Just the MacBook has been the ultimate winner for me. But it really comes down to what you like to do, right? Leisure time, if you have an iPad, you can start drawing, you can get into that kind of stuff, right? You can't really do that on a MacBook. But I think at the end of the day, it also really comes down to budget. That's something so important, right? A MacBook Air can run you $1,200. If you're looking at an iPad setup, it can also run you $1,200 if you get all of the equipment, right? Kind of price point, they're about the same. But again, one has a full performance, allows you to do a lot of more complicated, extensive stuff. One is a little bit more simple, more linear. Now, with all that being said, I'm really curious to know, what do you guys think about this debate? Are you a student? Are you going back to school? Are you already in school? And if you are watching this video and you're wanting to make a decision on which one it should be, do you agree that MacBook can be better in some cases, or do you disagree? Do you think the iPad is the ultimate winner? I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. So as always, feel free to leave something there. Let's start our conversation. Ultimately, in the end, guys, it doesn't even really matter which one you pick. iPad, MacBook, they're both good. If you want to pick up both, by all means, go do it. I have both. It's not the most ideal mix, but it can get the job done. With that being said, thank you so much for watching another video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And with all that said, I wish you the best of luck in everything you do, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Deuces.